ESPN.
That it is at 7 o'clock on 98.7 ESPN. We have got time for you tonight. And this excites me at 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. Carlin on 98.7. And there's so much to get to. We'll talk to Scott Pioli, the former executive for the Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs, and of course with the Atlanta Falcons as well, about the Deshaun Watson situation and how that could play out here in the coming weeks. We will get into the Knicks throughout the course of the evening, which I'm very excited about because I understand a position that you wouldn't necessarily expect me to have, but it has more to do not necessarily with where they are in the standings, but where the true effect of Tom Thibodeau is being felt. But I want to start where the story is tonight, and that is with the utter stupidity of Mickey Callaway and the sign of a larger problem. Why is it so difficult to understand what's appropriate and what's not? It's not like we haven't been told this before. It's not like we haven't seen it before. It's not like you're in a workplace and not taking all sorts of different courses that you have to take, sexual harassment courses, things like that. For anybody who still does not understand what is actually involved in that, why is it so difficult to really get what's appropriate and what's not? For instance, is it that hard to really figure out that telling a journalist who covers your team to come and get drunk with you and you'll tell her everything? Is it that really hard to tell that that's not appropriate? Is it hard to tell that you shouldn't send a shirtless picture of yourself in a hard hat to a female journalist, or to several, as it turns out? Exerting power over women, harassing them, coaxing them with the promise of information in a job that solely relies on information. How is it still a mystery that that is all wrong? We live, at least I would think, or thought, in somewhat of a new age, one would hope, where you have an age of Harvey Weinstein and Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose and Brett Favre and his stupidity years ago, yet we still seem to learn absolutely nothing from it. Mickey Callaway's a moron. Let me be clear. Mickey Callaway's a moron. I have absolutely zero respect for him. How about the cubes, as Michael was talking about earlier? How about the cubes on Mickey Callaway, who he decides that despite the mountain of evidence of his inappropriate behavior, he still chooses to deny it. Now that's stupidity. That's a guy that once said to a player of his, well, you're not a man if you have to consult your wife before bringing home a new pet. But admitting any wrongdoing, despite this mountain of evidence that sits in front of you, that's not gutless? Mickey, your time's up. Just go away. Honestly, just go away. Okay? They suspended him today. We all know he's getting fired. And we all know that the reason they suspended him today was because the lawyer said, don't fire him until we can make this look good enough into an actual investigation. They did the investigation. Read the article. Look at all of the text messages. It's all there. The investigation is there. For once, don't worry about the money and the lawsuit in an instance like that. If I'm owning the Angels today, I'm letting the lawyers sort it out later. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it just because I have to do it. I'm sending a message. The Mets had no problem doing it with Jared Porter. Why? Because he admitted what he had done. Mickey's not admitting it, so you're just going to prolong this as long as you can. Stop it. Stop it. You utter embarrassment. the problem is bigger. We know the problem is bigger, and I don't mean to sound like I'm lecturing you, but it's everywhere. It continues to happen all across society, and it continues to be treated among, let's just call it the misdemeanors of the office, as opposed to people in offices in businesses across the country, in sports across the country, taking it more seriously. There are offenders who continue this behavior because the punishment isn't seem to be getting the message across. Look at this dumbass Callaway. He does that in the middle of all the Harvey Weinstein stuff, in the middle of everything else that's going on. But no, I'm Mickey. I got this figured out. I'm going to keep sending those inappropriate pictures to women. God, you're dumb. God, you're dumb. And it's not just that the punishment doesn't get the message across. It's the people that enable the behavior, who say nothing, who do nothing, who don't go and check out people's histories thoroughly enough before hiring them. It's not just about a background check. With as many times as this has come up, with the Mets, who were sued for harassment a few years ago when Sandy was there, and Jeff Wilpon was sued. Remember that? We're still not going through the hiring process and figuring out exactly who's a good guy and who's not. And I got to be honest, Sandy Alderson is at fault here. His process is completely flawed. And I guarantee you this, from what I know of Sandy, and I've had many interactions with him over the years, the stupidity of people like Callaway and Jared Porter is absolutely killing him. Yet, he hired them. This is on his record just as much as Mickey Callaway's win-loss record is on him too. If not more so, of course more so. That's why he is at fault in this. That's why the NFL is at fault when they do nothing to punish Dan Snyder and his organization. I'm still waiting for that. Has that happened? Yeah, I don't really think it has. And if it has, it certainly wasn't substantial. I guarantee you this. If someone on Ron Rivera's staff went and tried to steal signals from another team, or they were deflating footballs, they would have the investigation of the century. Nope. Just hoping it goes away. And guess what? Over the last couple of months, it has. It has just that, gone away. Just what they hoped for. All excused because why? Because of money. Do you honestly, for instance, if you're the NFL, do you honestly think you'll lose money if you force Dan Snyder to sell the Washington football team? I know a lot of people that would go back to buying season tickets if they could. Come get drunk with me. I'll give you all the information you want. Don't, and I'll shut you out. The implication, clearly. Same behavior, smack in the middle of the Me Too movement. Brilliant. And here's the thing. The story's not told that continue to go on. You can only hope that people like Mickey continue to get put on blast, because that's a big way in which there can actually be change here. I'm bothered when people say, imagine this was your daughter. You don't have to say that. It's another person that has to deal with this kind of harassment. It shouldn't have to be your daughter automatically because the father is going to have that protective nature of a daughter. Well, that completely changes my perspective. It's somebody's daughter. It's a person who deserves respect, who deserves to be able to go to work and not have to worry about this crap. It's not just baseball. It's not just football. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And what really gets me is that you will have the idiots out there who will say, what about this and what about that? You will have the idiots out there who will talk about what if she's lying? And the immediate instinct is always to not believe the person making an accusation. And we wonder why people don't come forward on things like this, why women don't come forward on things like this. Last part for me that's laughable. There are those guys right now who are feeling marginalized, persecuted. Oh, it's an attack on us right now. No, guys, it's not. It's an attack on the guys who were jackasses. It's an attack if you enable it. It's an attack if you watch it go on and do nothing. To that thought process, to the men who are feeling marginalized right now, I say this. Fellas, we've had it pretty damn good for a long time, few thousand years now. So what is it? Why are you upset? Are you upset because you're not getting a chance to treat women badly like your forefathers did? Why are you upset when people get called out for bad behavior? Everybody's at fault here. Am I sitting up here on a high horse? No, it's made me look at a lot of different things over the last couple of years. It really has. What did I turn my head to something? Was I paying attention? Was I not paying enough attention? Just, it's not that hard to tell what's right and what's wrong. It's not. And you have to be really, really, really dumb to not be able to tell. Really dumb. Mickey Callaway is really dumb. One of the best conversations I've had about this was with Jen Latta of ESPN. You know her from College Game Day. She's all over the place. Outstanding reporter. And is now co-host on a morning show on ESPN Milwaukee. And Jen's going to join us at 7:30. And I'm looking forward to this because it's just more than anything else, when you hear from people and, you know, hear the stories of what they have to deal with, maybe that's just what has the most effect. And, I don't know what we're going to get into along those lines with Jen, but I know we had a really intelligent conversation that I learned a lot from, and I hope other people do. Your call's next, 800-919-3776, 800-919-ESPN. Later, we will have Scott Pioli on the show. We will also get into the Knicks tonight as well, and exactly where their true development is coming, and why Tom Thibodeau really was the right coach, and it's not about the defense. All of that is on the way. It's Carlin on 98.7 ESPN at 7:13. We're coming back.
Sometimes talking to someone you...
Hey, Chris, I didn't want to play a
drop after that serious talk?
Yeah.
New York Project...
Gotcha.
I got to step away for 1 sec.
Okay.
Emotions of living life in the midst of COVID. Call 1-844-863-9314 and talk confidentially and free 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week, or visit nyprojecthope.org. Here to listen, here to talk, here to support.
Do you hate wearing button-down shirts that are stiff and scratchy? Buttercloth has designed a men's casual dress shirt that is actually comfortable. I've tried Buttercloth shirts, and they are the world's most comfortable shirt. You'll look like a Friday night, but feel like a Sunday morning in Buttercloth shirts. The shirts are not stiff and scratchy like typical men's dress shirts. They're breathable, and they keep you warm in winter and cool in summer. The signature details and tailored fit will make you look amazing. During COVID, no one wants to go to the mall, so Buttercloth is offering a special gifting program with a beautiful gift box. Valentine's Day is coming up, and Buttercloth shirts make the perfect gift for the special men in your life. For a limited time, Buttercloth is offering my listeners up to 20% off your first purchase. Go to buttercloth.com/radio and the discount will be applied at checkout. That's buttercloth.com/radio to get up to 20% off your purchase.
Playtika presents the numerology of football's biggest game.
The most yards gained in a Super Bowl? That, of course, was the GOAT, Jerry Rice. He gobbled up 215 total yards on the way to a Super Bowl MVP and a win for the 49ers over the Cincinnati Bengals in Super Bowl 23.
Start your poker journey in the official World Series of Poker app. World Series of Poker. Respect the game. Play for free now.
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use ClosetBox instead? ClosetBox is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. ClosetBox's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. ClosetBox's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. ClosetBox has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code RADIO50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696.
Does anybody want breakfast? Guys, let's go. I'm leaving for McDonald's in 5 seconds. Why did you start with that?
The Breakfast Stampede meal. It's only at McDonald's, where there's a meal for every morning.
Enjoy a breakfast bundle. Pair hash browns with your choice of a sausage biscuit, sausage McMuffin, or McChicken biscuit for just $3. Only at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hey, it's Michael K. Tune in for my show Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Presented
30 seconds, Chris.
15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today. See how much you could save.
Introducing Money Dots, a new game from the New York Lottery. Only $1 to play. And if you match with a dot, you win money. It's that simple. Want to know if you've won? Just check in store or watch the Quick Draw live show on our mobile app. Money Dots.
10.
Played. Must be 18 years or older to purchase a lottery ticket. You must be 21 years or older to purchase a Quick Draw ticket where alcoholic beverages are served. Please play responsibly.
Hey, feeling good, like I should.
718. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 800-919-3776. Open lines. We'll hit them here shortly. Got a couple of comments coming in on the live stream as well over at ESPN New York 98.7's Twitter handle and on ESPN New York's Facebook page. Jay Castillo checking in with Carlin. Good job, brother. I love the show. This shows a complete lack of leadership and judgment. Look, you know, it's not even about these things. The judgment thing is really remarkable to me. Really remarkable that an adult man can be this stupid. It really is. But as much as people don't want to say it's on Sandy, it is on Sandy too. And I'm sorry, like in real life, it's a similar thing. When you hire somebody and they don't get the job done, it's not just on them, it's on you and your judgment. That's a strike against you. And now this is a couple of them that's happened on Sandy. It's not a good situation. It absolutely is on the people that you hire for not knowing what they're doing. Yeah, I know so many people out there now who would make the argument, well, how are you supposed to know what he's doing all the time? Or how are you supposed to know what he's been doing in the past? Look at the resume. Look at all you have to do is go back and talk to a few people who have been around him. Guys, I got news for you. On the Mickey Callaway front, this was not exactly like trying to spot a comet that shows up once every 76 years. When they say it was the worst kept secret, I mean, I never hear anything. I never hear anything in terms of real rumors. And that was a rumor I always heard. I didn't know it to be fact. I didn't know any specific women who had gone through it with him. But I had always heard that he was somebody that absolutely hit on, not necessarily reporters, but just women nonstop. You know, you hear a lot of things in this business in particular. Some of them turn out to be true. Some of them turn out to not be true. I think about a lot of different aspects of this that are just so frustrating. Because for the guys right now who are so upset about getting persecuted over this, it's not something that is all that difficult to really fix. It's just not. Don't behave like a jackass. And if you see somebody behaving like a jackass, or you know of it, call them out. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. You know, I mean, when you see it, you know it. You absolutely know it. So why is that an attack on you all of a sudden? It's not. It's an attack on behavior. It's an attack on just understanding that you can do your part to help without just standing around and being worried. Now, look, I get it. There are so many women who have been in this position who are afraid to come forward and make a bigger issue out of something for fear of their jobs, for fear of their credibility, for fear of their, if you're in reporting, access, all that stuff, for fear of not getting more opportunities. I know a couple. And it's frightening that you would consider somebody having to go through something like that professionally and then having to be worried about whether or not it's going to affect them adversely. Not the guys who did it. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. Couple of the other quotes I wanted to hit. Jarv, our buddy Jarv, 5 people come forward. And Mickey is claiming that he's completely innocent and the pictures are doctored and there are text messages that were made up. Come on. Like, you talk about not being a man. Be a man and take your responsibility for your own actions. Stop it. Just don't be gutless. That's not even acknowledging that you've done anything wrong. At least admit that. Richard Miller checking in. Chris, the front office is to blame along with Callaway. The front office is to blame not just because they didn't, quote, know about his behavior. And I'm sorry. I find it impossible to believe that the Mets at the time never heard a word about his behavior. When I heard that was a possibility. And I didn't know anything about the reporter's side. I just knew more about the women's side. And if you know if a guy's acting like a jackass like that, and it's getting around the way that it was, how does it not come across your desk? Like, I don't believe for a second that the Mets never heard of it when Mickey was here. I don't believe that for a minute. Now, they may not have heard of it when they hired him, but if they didn't know of it when they got here, are you going to tell me it was only reporters? It wasn't anybody in the organization? Wasn't any women who worked for the team? Wasn't anybody like that? See, that's the thing that we always forget. These are just the people who came forward in this. There are always a lot more that don't. And that's to me what's staggering. Because and I even hate the thought of this just because it's so stupid, but there are a lot of nervous guys around all of professional sports right now for fear of getting blown up for their behavior. And you know what? Good. I hope they do get blown up for it. Nobody's perfect. I understand that. But there's difference between being perfect and treating other people poorly. And if you've ever been treated poorly, do you wish that on anybody else? No, absolutely not. So where is the empathy there? That's what I just can't understand. Where's the at least trying, and empathy is not the right word, but the at least trying to understand, because having not been in the shoes, never fully appreciate what it is, but you can recognize what's right and what's wrong. We'll talk to Jen Latta about this next. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 800-919-3776. Jen will join us in just a moment, of course, from College Game Day and all different roles on ESPN. Join us. Sit tight. Carlin, 98.7.
You're down.
Okay.
Boy, it's getting a little obnoxious already. The 24/7 champion, Peter Rosenberg. Do you have a balcony? I do. I think there's somebody coming in behind you. Hold on. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. See ya. That's it. Rosenberg.
How much time do we have?
The 24/7 championship. Oh.
First time. About 3.5 minutes.
All right, we'll be back in a second.
Getting your title back.
Poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Shop safe with PayPal.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you could post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter instead. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. It's no wonder that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. You can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com.
Yeah.
I called Jen, but I think her baby answered.
PAIN.
Okay, call again.
Days for you.
Okay.
That means getting what you need fast.
So,
That's why
so
AutoZone
is she on the
offers
phone or
free
no?
Same-day store pickup. Order
Okay.
5,800 AutoZone locations. Or if your job can wait, AutoZone offers free next-day delivery on orders over $35. Free next day delivery is available on over 100,000 parts, including ones for jobs like replacing your brake pads and rotors or installing new wipers. Visit AutoZone.com today to start your job fast. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
98.7 ESPN and the undefeated celebrate Black History Month.
Lift every voice and sing.
On April 13, 1997, Tiger Woods made history in Augusta, Georgia. The 21-year-old golf prodigy became the youngest and first non-white player to win the Masters, a record TV audience of approximately 44 major by sharing a passionate hug.
We're coming back in here, though.
On 98.7 ESPN.
Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 800-919-3776, 800-919-ESPN. In just a moment, Jen Latta of ESPN is going to join us. And we will discuss all that went down with this Mickey Callaway situation, but really more just about the behavior and what female reporters have to deal with on a day in and day out basis. Want to get to some of the calls here. We got open lines. Fire them up at 800-919-3776, 800-919-ESPN. Going to spend some time a little bit later on the Knicks. We will get to that in a bit. But as I said, you know her from College Game Day. You know her from all different spots on ESPN. She's everywhere. She is Jen Latta, who joins us right now on 98.7 ESPN. Jen, Chris Carlin here in New York. How you doing?
Oh, it's great to chat with you again, Chris.
You too, Jen. Appreciate it. And I asked you to come on because you and I hosted together this summer when the Washington football team stuff was going on. And I thought you were incredibly insightful on this topic, being not just being a female reporter, but just in general, how this stuff continues to go on when the Mickey Callaway story came up. So I guess my first question is, what was your reaction when you first saw the Callaway story?
Oh, gosh, I'm so exhausted by these conversations, right? Didn't we just have another incident last week or the week before where there was another, text messages, right? It was like 62 unrequited text messages and then a picture, or an image or something, it just gets old at some point. And I think what's most challenging, Chris, and you and I discussed this summer when we chatted, was this idea that things are getting better and, or that women are somehow complicit in this, that somehow they were asking for it just by trying to interact in a highly competitive environment like sports reporting and sports broadcasting.
So, Jen, when you're in that environment, describe what it is like, just the challenges that you have to deal with that your male counterparts don't have to deal with.
Well, everyone's held to the same standard of information and relationships, right? So men and women are supposed to cultivate sources. You're supposed to create relationships, develop rapport, show your insight, show your knowledge, and that using that as a way to kind of convey your value in the clubhouse. Let's just use baseball as an example. So in pre-COVID days, you would spend as much time as possible in the clubhouse working the clubhouse, which is to go from locker to locker, space to space, interacting with the guys, some of which would be open to having conversations, giving you information, and others who would not. So part of it is kind of that, quote unquote, grooming process, if you will, of just figuring out who are going to be sources for information, who you can trust, who, will basically work with you in that space, right? It's a relationship. It's a transactional relationship, right? Information and coverage. And so as a female, you're expected to maintain the same sources or create the same sources as your male counterparts. And yet men can go out for drinks with players or with managers or GMs, and no one ever bats an eye. Switching to a different sport, the NFL Combine is probably one of those instances where that's where a lot of information is exchanged. That's where a lot of relationships are developed between reporters and people who are in sports. Again, your GMs, your coaches, your players, etc. But can you imagine the tongues that start wagging when a group of women are saddled up next to a GM or a coach at a bar, just trying to get the same type of relationship, passing of information, immediately becomes, oh, there must be some type of inappropriateness going on. So you have to carry yourself in a different manner, but you're still expected to have the same information, the same type of sources. And so what ends up happening is these men oftentimes take advantage of that hierarchy. They recognize that you are expected, you are held to the same standard, and how can you, what could they do to try to get you to, cozy up to them a little bit more? Well, more information. And so it just becomes a very like delicate dance of, I'm a professional, you're a professional. How can we have this professional relationship that, where there is sourcing and where there's information being passed back and forth, but that doesn't cross the line? And too often, I think men take advantage of that delicate space.
Jen Latta, College Game Day on ESPN. She's also co-host of the morning show on ESPN Milwaukee with Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. Jen, describe what's been your most difficult circumstance in trying to develop those kind of relationships while keeping that balance and at the same time, I guess, trying to find a way to tune out people around you that are ultra paying more attention to your interactions with players and coaches?
Well, what ends up happening is when you recognize that someone isn't going to quote unquote play ball with you, they're not going to pass on information to you unless you have a drink with them, unless you meet them in their hotel room, unless you allow them to make unwanted advances or comments that would be inappropriate in most settings, then you have to back off. And that's what's happening. What happens too often for women is then that becomes a non-source. It becomes a person that you can't approach. It becomes a person that you cannot use. And look, sometimes the stories are about those people. So you put yourself at a disadvantage. But if you are to try to push through it, then you run the risk of being isolated. You run the risk of being, called names. You run the risk of, a player or a manager or a GM or, sometimes even PR people who don't get the relationship that they want, boxing you out of coverage. I have an example from covering a team where I turned down date request after date request from a PR representative, and then he would not let me get close enough to the players in the clubhouse to conduct my interviews with any sense of like normalcy. So I was like, instead of being right up there next to the guys and having your microphone in there and being able to ask questions, I was like regulated to the back of the pack. So it's very difficult to then have an interaction, ask questions, get the things done that you need to do. So what? For vengeance? For, you know what I mean? Because he was upset that I hadn't said yes to his dates. So like it's all of that like delicate stuff that you're walking and trying to balance, and then never knowing when you're going to need to reach out to some of these people in order to actually do your job. It can be very complicated.
Jen, you mentioned it earlier, the frustrating part about hearing how it's supposedly getting better, yet it's not. How does it come across to you and other female journalists at this point when it's not getting better? Even when, for instance, I look at the Callaway thing, Jen, and I look at what's going on in society at the time. All of the Me Too stuff is going on, and yet still behaving in this way. I'm just wondering, how you just deal with that. The fact that you can't seem to get past the behavior of others in trying to do your job.
Well, I will say that when there are reports like the one that came out this week about Mickey Callaway, the one that came out the week before, the major report that you and I talked about this past summer with the Washington football team, I think that puts people on notice. I really do. And when we look at baseball, for so long it has been, this area of just men, but you're starting to see women creep into these roles because they deserve them, of course. And that, I think, can contribute to eliminating some of that behavior. When your peers and your colleagues are women, sometimes I think there's a checking of oneself as opposed to when you're just in an environment where it's only men, and some of that gets tossed away as quote unquote locker room talk or locker room behavior. I think that's helping. I think that every time a story comes forward, that we get a little bit closer to guys being like, is it really worth my livelihood if somebody screen grabs these texts, if somebody has told somebody else and it gets out there, and that's what we women do. We share with each other. And that was one of the details that, struck me about the Callaway incident, was that while it hadn't become public, certainly the women who were interacting with Callaway were aware of this reputation, because we are looking out for each other. And when we know that somebody might be put in a compromising position, a lot of women will say, hey, keep your distance from this guy. Hey, this guy's a known, bleepity bleep, whatever you want to refer to him as. Never go, out to a restaurant with this person. They will misinterpret that behavior. Always screen grab your text. Always communicate via email if you can. All of these types of things to protect the women from even being in a situation where they would be vulnerable and where they would be abused.
Jen, we talked about that very thing and the fact that it happens in offices all the time. And at the time, I remember being like kind of naive about that. And the idea that women do talk about who to avoid, who's going to do what. This happens every day. And I was reading it in that Washington story thinking, like, wow, they actually had to do this to just function every day. How ridiculous is that? And yet, for women, it happens every day. And that's something I think that as men, we don't understand.
Yeah, it happens in a lot of places, but especially where it is a overwhelming majority of men, right? So if you look around a press box and you notice that there's one or two women, it's a ripe environment. It's a petri dish for that type of abuse to occur. I think, it's good that we're aware of it. I think, like I said, it tends to have people check themselves because people are being more bold. But I always hate that the onus comes on the women to report it, as though managers and executives aren't aware that it's going on and can't be mitigating it or regulating it from the top down. Like, make sure you're creating an environment where that will not be tolerated. And if there is any sniff of impropriety, those people will be gone. The problem is that there have been environments created where it just grows and manifests, and then a woman comes into that environment and she's expected to be Wonder Woman and save the day by blowing the whistle. And unfortunately, then she's worried about her own livelihood, right? She's worried about not being taken seriously. She's worried about being, quote unquote, culpable in the situation. Well, what did you wear? Well, did you meet him for drinks? Well, and all of the other things that get thrown in women's faces, blaming them for these types of interactions. So I do think that there is something to be said for executives and people at the highest level recognizing that this can be, a poison, and this can take you down. This can be a liability. Years and years and years ago, Chris, like when I was first getting into the business, I sent an email to a news director saying, this behavior that I had experienced on a job interview can only be a liability to your company, because if it's not me, it's the next girl, and then it's the next girl, and then it's the next girl. And why do you want to protect someone like that? Why do you want someone like that underneath your umbrella? No matter how talented they are, they're a liability to what you're trying to put together there.
Jen, when we hear about they need to do a better job in background checks and all that stuff, this is a different kind of thing. If you're hiring somebody that is in a male-dominated situation like this, if you're hiring a new manager and you're trying to find out about them, that some stuff that may not turn up like this in a background check, what would you tell an executive to do to find out this kind of stuff, knowing that information circulates?
I don't think it's that hard, really. I know that this is going to sound like, oh, well, Jen, why don't you just handle it then? But check their social media. Like, are there off-colored jokes there? Are there jokes at women's expenses? Are there jokes about people's appearances? Are there, that's one way. Obviously, people do a really good job of combing their social media before job interviews and whatnot. But, who are they interacting with? Pass through again, it's very hard from a job interview standpoint, but once that person is under your wing and you are their boss, what are the conversations in the lunchroom? What are the conversations at the quote unquote water cooler? And if they're off color and if they could be construed, be aware of that and then take measures to keep that, because if they're willing to say it, it's likely that they're behaving that way too. And when it's allowed to go on, that's when people feel emboldened. And that's when someone like a Mickey Callaway can do it for years and years and years and under different teams and franchises. And it takes a bunch of women coming together and saying, that same thing happened to me, for it to be this expose that then affects someone's reputation.
Last one for Jen Latta of ESPN College Game Day and all different platforms on ESPN. What would you tell your male colleagues as to how they can support you best or help women in the profession without, the idea of being competitors is one thing. There's another thing just in terms of trying to help each other be successful when clearly the deck is stacked against women in male-dominated situations.
Yeah, and I think the biggest challenge for women is that we oftentimes don't want to be the victims. We don't want to be painted as a poor, pitiful me type of gal, right? Especially in the sports broadcasting industry. I've always said some of the biggest reasons why the women who are successful is because they've faced adversity, they have quickly recovered from it, and they've kept moving forward. They don't dwell on the things that they face, the things that have made it difficult, right? So it's very against our nature to be like, help us navigate this. But since you asked, it's as simple as believing women. When a woman makes a comment like, that guy is a scumbag, or that guy, I don't want to be around that guy, like raise an eyebrow and then maybe have a conversation like, oh, why? Like, and is there something we can do to, alert people to that behavior or something? Because we don't make it up. I know that people always want to throw it out there like that women will play the victim in these situations, but it's just not in the nature of the successful, driven women that I know to make up stuff like that and to wallow in victimhood. So if it comes up even briefly, our instinct is going to be to move forward, to laugh it off, to be like, oh yeah, that guy, and roll your eyes. But that kind of right there is a red flag that something needs to be done.
Jen, awesome perspective. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we're not talking about this a lot more.
No, I appreciate it. And I would love to chat with you about anything else, but I'm always happy to be a sounding board on these things as well.
Jen Latta, ESPN Milwaukee, does a morning show with David Chewy and also ESPN College Game Day. All right, calls next, 800-919-3776, 800-919-ESPN. We will hit your calls on Mickey Callaway, on Sandy Alderson and his role in all this. Let's do it next. Open lines. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN.
How cute. Is that
You're down, Chris.
dog?
No. Solid interview, man.
Thank you.
One of
Jim's
those
great.
new hybrid breeds.
No, it's a new game from the New York Lottery. Money dots pop up every 4 minutes, and if you match with one, you could win up to $50.
Is it hypoallergenic?
Win money on the dot with Money Dots from the New York Lottery. Look for it where Quick Draws.
Hey, Chris.
Must be 18 years or older.
All right, so I just want to know, are you going to be playing? I know the first few segments were serious. Are you going to be playing any of those liners?
I will be in the 8 o'clock hour.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Guys, let's go. I'm leaving for McDonald's in 5 seconds. Why do you move forward with that?
The Breakfast Stampede Meal. It's only at McDonald's, where there's a meal for every morning.
Enjoy a breakfast bundle. Pair hash browns with your choice of a sausage biscuit, sausage McMuffin, or McChicken biscuit for just $3. Only at McDonald's. Price and participation may vary. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Hockey and basketball fans love scoring in nets, but what else do they have in common? It's a good question, and it's a chance for an easy 100 from BetMGM. Register for the king of all sportsbooks and win $100 in free bets when you place a $1 moneyline wager on the Clippers and the Nets game, and if either team hits a three, now you win. Simply sign up using bonus code DAVE100, that's DAVE100, when you make your first bet to take advantage of this very special offer. Maybe you have more in common with table tennis fans. It doesn't matter what sport. BetMGM is where the stakes are always raised. Enjoy parlay selection features to build the parlay of your dreams, boosted odds specials for major payouts, daily promotions, and more. Now download the app or go to BetMGM.com and use bonus code DAVE100 to win $100 in free bets when you wager $1 on the Clippers or the Nets to hit a three-pointer. Must be 21 years or older, must be in New Jersey. Restrictions apply. Visit BetMGM.com for full list of terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Let's play. Welcome back to Wind Creek, Bethlehem. It's time to enjoy life again with the slots you love, incomparable table action, delicious
Hey, Chris.
incredible outlet.
So as we mentioned before with the updates, we're not going to hit them, but we're going to add a few, like an extra minute or so of spots so that it's just a little bit longer.
All right, so what do you want me to do at the top? When do you want me to break?
There's not going to be a hard out for you, so you can really get out any time around like 58.
800-GAMBLER.
Whatever you're feeling, basically. But there's no hard out for these. So
This Valentine's Day.
Chris, you could get out like a 57.50. It's still similar time, or if you have more to say, 58.20.
All right,
Up to
cool.
you. Okay.
Yep. Design.
Just whatever you like, the flow you feel like.
The
All right,
2 by
cool.
London commitment is getting it just right. And they'll work with you every step of the way and provide a truly customized and safe experience. Visit 2 by London, the engagement shop at London Jewelers today, and mention ESPN at the Americana Manhasset East
all right, you got 30 seconds.
Trade Center.
If you're like me and you love high-quality wine at ridiculously low prices, you need to sign up for WineText.com. WineText.com is the newest and easiest way to buy wine right at your fingertips. Gary Vaynerchuk and the team at Wine Library are changing the wine buying game and sending the best deals directly to your phone. Take 2 minutes to sign up for WineText.com and start receiving daily text messages with offers on amazing wines, massive discounts, super convenient, and a great way to learn wine. That's WineText.com. WineText.com. Must be 21 or older.
Carlin, 98.7 ESPN. 800-919-3776. 800-919-ESPN. John in New Jersey. First up this segment here. John, what's cooking, brother? How are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. Still snow plowing from this horrible snowstorm that we had.
You're out there plowing the streets. What are you doing? Driveways? What are you up to?
Some buildings that I do.
Gotcha. All right. It's going to be a long night, isn't it?
Yeah. It's been a long few nights.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I don't know what day I'm on, but anyway.
What's going on, man?
One thing I would like to weigh in on, I'm privileged to know a coach for one of the Giants that worked on the Carlin and stuff. He's always treated the media very well, especially Kim Jones and the many people he's run into that do the Giants and the NFL. But one thing that nobody spoke about, and I'm not sure. I know this is going to be very controversial, but the advancement of the women in the media and stuff have come a long way, and it's good to see that, especially with the beginning of FAN with Susan Waldman and stuff. But I think what's going on now under the new administration that's happening, that Biden signed into the executive order, he signed in that a transgender boy who says he's a girl can now play women's sports and dress and shower in the locker room. I just think that's going to destroy women in sports going forward, and nobody's brought that up.
Yeah, I don't agree, John, and thanks for the call. I don't think one in this case really has anything to do with the other than treating each other with respect. That to me is not part of what this is. This to me is just it's very simple, and it's amazing to me that it gets away from the simplicity of the topic. Treating somebody else with respect. That's it. That's all there is to it. In the workplace. Not hard. Not hard to do. Not hard to tell what's right, what's wrong. Not in the least is that difficult. You do walk into that job with one of your hands tied behind your back, so to speak. You really do. Because it is true. Like I've been on plenty of situations where if a woman is off in the corner, a female reporter is off in the corner talking to a particular player, then it's, like guys are terrible with that stuff. Terrible. I'm going to lay off the warning tonight. Not really in the mood for it. Richard in Manhattan. Hello, Richard.
Chris, I'm 66. I know nothing about texting, sending pictures. I wouldn't know how to do that in a million years. This guy's disgusting, though. To do something like that is cowardly. 5 women that go. I don't think he should ever get a job. And you know what? He would have kept doing it until he got caught. That's the bad thing. He's not apologetic. Nothing.
We don't know that it didn't continue in Anaheim last year or even recently.
Chris, but what I don't agree with was something that happened to Mike Milbury. Mike Milbury was honest. I mean, that's as honest as you can be. You're saying the opposite sex is not there to distract you from, being in the bubble. I didn't think he said a thing wrong. I don't understand why.
I think in Mike Milbury's case, it was a long list of dumb things that were said.
Something different.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Richard, I'm purely guessing here. But I think if that was a first, and I'm not saying what he, Richard, I think that he just would have, if it had just been one comment, it would have moved on. And he had several one comments where they were able to get past it, and it just ended up being a collection of stupidity with Mike.
Chris, you know when I saw things starting, you remember the Alabama Notre Dame football game, the championship game in 2000,
Sure.
January of 2004. Right. Brent Musburger. Now the game was awful. The game was terrible.
He's talking about Catherine Webb.
Right. I don't like to even look at cheerleaders during a good football game when it's close. I don't want to. I'm concentrating on the game. But the game was out of hand. It was awful. And they put the camera in the stands, and the quarterback for Alabama, his girlfriend, they showed her, and she was beautiful. And he made a statement, and he got in trouble for that. And they thought he was strange. Brent Musburger was strange, and he was creepy. I said, that's what men did in those days, and, that was a normal thing. The game was awful. I mean, you had to have
Richard,
your mind
it
on
was,
something.
at the time, Richard.
At that time, right.
No. I mean, it wasn't 40 years ago, and thanks for the call. It was just 15 years ago, and it was an old guy on the broadcast making a comment he shouldn't make. You shouldn't do it. Just stick to the game. Just stick to the game. That's all. That's all. Oof. It's just one of those things where it's not that hard to figure out what's right and what's wrong. And it escapes me that, just to give you an example, okay? I went to an all-boys high school, Catholic high school in New Jersey. And it was not good for me in understanding how to talk to women. Like, I did not know how to talk to women at all in college for at least 2 or 3 years. Really no concept whatsoever. And just not understanding that it's just like talking to anybody else. That's it. And the idea moving forward, okay, you don't learn at that point, all right, well, this is okay and this isn't. Like, that line you do learn, I should say, is not that hard to figure out even on your own. Like, your own moral compass should tell you that. Listen, to me, it's just the utter stupidity of one guy. And in this instance, but it speaks to the much larger problem across all of society, all of professional sports. Your job should not be made harder to do by idiots like this. Carlin, 98.7 ESPN, 800-919-3776, 800-919-ESPN. In just a little bit, we will talk to Scott Pioli to discuss exactly what's fair to give up and what's not when it comes to Deshaun Watson. And we will also get to the Knicks as well and what has been most impressive about them. We'll do it all as we roll on. Carlin, with you on 98.7 ESPN.
This is where
you're down, Chris.
Play, your official radio home for